On my 62nd birthday, my daughter-in-law looked at the collard greens I'd spent 4 hours cooking and said, "How ethnic. I already ate at the club." "I'm Martha Rose Johnson. I'm 62 years old." I smiled and said, "That's all right, baby." Then I noticed the $15,000 Cartier bracelet on her wrist, the same week my son told me he couldn't afford a birthday card. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end. The November sun was setting over Dallas when I pulled the cornbread from the oven. The kitchen of the penthouse, my penthouse, though nobody knew that yet, smelled like my grandmother's house in Mississippi. Collard greens simmering with ham hocks, candied yams with pecans, peach cobbler cooling on the marble counter. I'd been cooking since 6 that morning, 62 years old, and I was still trying to earn my place at my own table. My late husband James used to say I made the best soul food in Texas. He'd been gone 3 years now, took the cancer 6 months to steal him from me, and I still set a place for him in my mind every time I cooked. "Baby," I could hear him saying, "you're giving them too much. They need to learn to give back." But James wasn't here anymore, and I was trying to hold on to the only family I had left. "Mom!" Derek's voice echoed from the living room. "Can you bring me some water? I'm on an important call." I wiped my hands on my apron, the one that said "Kiss the Cook" that my grandbaby had given me before. Well, before Vivian decided I didn't see her enough. I poured filtered water into a crystal glass, added ice the way Derek liked it, and walked it out to him. My son, 36 years old, sitting on the leather sofa with his feet up on the coffee table, scrolling through his phone. He didn't look up when I set the glass beside him, just waved his hand in a thank you dismissed motion. I looked at him, really looked at him, and tried to see the baby boy I'd rocked to sleep after my shift at the bank. The little one who'd cried when his daddy went to parent-teacher conferences because he thought James might not come back. The teenager who'd told me I was his hero when I started my own business from our garage. That boy was gone. Or maybe he'd never been who I thought he was. "Derek, honey," I said softly. "Dinner's almost ready. Vivian said she'd be here by 6:30. It's 6:45 now." "She's coming from hot yoga," he muttered, eyes still on his screen. "You know how traffic is." I did know. I also knew that the hot yoga studio closed at 5:30 on Thursdays. I'd driven past it enough times on my way back from the office. The office Derek thought was just some boring investment meetings I attended. The elevator dinged. Private entrance, keycard access only. Only 3 people had those cards. Me, Derek, and Vivian. She stepped out in head-to-toe Lululemon, her blonde hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail, sunglasses pushed up on her head even though the sun had set 20 minutes ago. 34 years old and looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine for women who married well. "Oh," she said, wrinkling her nose as she walked past me toward the kitchen. "What's that smell?" "Soul food," I said, following her. "I made your favorite, peach cobbler with vanilla bean ice cream." Vivian opened the refrigerator and pulled out a green juice, the kind that cost $12 at Whole Foods, the kind I paid for on the credit card bill I reviewed every month. She took a long sip before turning to me. "Martha," she said, "never Mom, never Mother Johnson, always Martha. I told you I already ate. Catherine and I had quinoa bowls at the club. They have this new chef from California, very clean eating." Catherine, her mother, who'd visited last month and asked me, right in front of Derek, if I knew a good cleaning lady because your people always know the best ones. I'd said nothing then. I said nothing now. "Well," I managed, my voice steady, "I made plenty if you change your mind." That's when I saw it. Vivian lifted her left hand to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, and the light caught the diamonds. A tennis bracelet, delicate and obscenely expensive, wrapped around her slim wrist. Cartier. I'd seen the exact same one at Neiman Marcus when I was shopping for a gift for Patricia, my lawyer. $15,000. "That's beautiful," I said, pointing to it. Vivian glanced down and her face lit up, the first real smile I'd seen from her all evening. "Oh, this? Derek surprised me last week. He said I deserved something special." Derek, who'd told me 2 weeks ago he couldn't afford to contribute to my birthday dinner, who'd forgotten to get me a card, who'd borrowed $5,000 from me just last month for a business opportunity that never seemed to materialize. "That's wonderful," I said. Derek's always been thoughtful, The words tasted like ash in my mouth. We sat down to dinner at 7. The dining table could seat 12, but it was just the three of us. I'd set out my good china, the set James and I had bought when his first business succeeded, back before Derek was born. White porcelain with gold trim. Each plate cost more than I wanted to remember. I served the food myself, passed the dishes around, watched Derek pile his plate high while Vivian picked at a single spoonful of yams. "So," I said, trying to make conversation, "how's the real estate business going, Derek?" My son had been getting his real estate license for the past 18 months. Before that, it was cryptocurrency consulting. Before that, a wellness app. Before that, 3 other ventures that all ended the same way, with me writing another check. "Good, good," he said through a mouthful of cornbread. "Got a big deal coming through. Should close next month." "That's what you said last month," Vivian muttered, but smiled quickly when I looked at her. "I mean, that's wonderful, honey." I cut into my ham. "And Vivian, how's your, what was it, interior design consultancy?" "Consulting," she corrected, "is really about building the right network. Catherine introduced me to the wives of 3 oil executives last week. It's all about who you know, not what you do." I said. We ate in silence for a while, the kind of silence that feels like a weight pressing down on your chest. I thought about James, about how he used to fill this kind of quiet with stories and laughter, how he never let a meal pass without telling me something that made me smile. "Martha," Vivian said suddenly, setting down her fork with a delicate clink, "I've been meaning to talk to you about something." I looked up. Derek kept eating, but I saw his jaw tighten slightly. "Catherine and I were discussing Thanksgiving," Vivian continued. "We're hosting at the club this year. Very intimate, just immediate family. Her sister's coming in from Scottsdale, and we thought—" "It would be nice if you came," Derek interrupted, finally looking at me. "Of course I'll come," I said. "I always—" "Actually," Vivian cut in, her voice sugar-sweet, "Catherine suggested maybe you'd be more comfortable at one of those community dinners. They have wonderful programs for seniors at the church on Henderson Avenue. Very warm, very welcoming. And you wouldn't have to worry about cooking or cleaning up." The words hung in the air like smoke. "You're uninviting me to Thanksgiving?" I asked quietly. "Not uninviting," Vivian said quickly. "Just being realistic. Catherine's sister is very particular about seating arrangements, and with the twins—" She touched her stomach in a practiced gesture, though I knew she wasn't pregnant yet. She'd been making that gesture for 6 months now. "Well, we need to think about space." I looked at Derek, my son, my only child. The boy I'd raised alone after his father died when Derek was just 8 years old. The teenager I'd put through private school by working 3 jobs. The young man whose college education I'd paid for in full so he wouldn't have debt. "Derek?" I said. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Mom, maybe it's for the best this year. You know how Catherine gets about her events." Something inside me, something that had been cracking for months, maybe years, finally broke clean through. But I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I took a sip of my water, set the glass down gently, folded my napkin beside my untouched plate. "I see," I said. "Don't be like that," Vivian sighed. "You're being dramatic." "I'm not being anything," I replied, standing up. "I'm just understanding the situation clearly for the first time." I walked to my bedroom, the master suite that took up half of the penthouse's 2nd floor, and closed the door behind me. Through the wall I could hear Vivian's voice, high and irritated. "See? This is exactly what I mean. She makes everything about her." I sat on the edge of my bed. The bed I'd shared with James. The bed I'd bought with money from the company I'd built from nothing. The bed in the penthouse I'd purchased in 2019, 2 years before Derek even met Vivian. On my nightstand was a photo of James taken a month before he died. He was thin by then, the cancer eating away at him, but he was smiling. His hand was on mine. "Baby," I whispered to the photo, "I think it's time." I opened the nightstand drawer and pulled out a small leather notebook. James had given it to me on our 20th anniversary. For keeping score, he'd joked, because we both knew I had a head for numbers. I'd used it to track our investments, our savings, our plans. Now I flipped to a page I'd started 3 months ago. The page where I'd begun documenting something that had been bothering me, little inconsistencies that my analyst's brain couldn't ignore. At the top of the page, I'd written, "Follow the money." Underneath, in my careful handwriting, June 15th, Derek borrowed $5,000 for real estate course. Course cost, $800. Difference, $4,200. July 3rd, Vivian's new handbag, Hermes, $12,000. Derek claimed it was on sale. By August 10th, dinner charge on supplementary card, Skyline Ember, $847. Tuesday night, Derek claimed he was working late at the gym. September 1st, hotel charge, Ritz-Carlton, $1,200. Derek in town, but claimed his car broke down and he needed to stay near the mechanic. The list went on and on. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The supplementary credit card I'd given to Vivian, because Derek had asked me to, said she needed it for household expenses, showed a pending charge from this afternoon. Neiman Marcus, $3,287. I clicked through to the details. Transaction time, 2:47 p.m. While Derek was supposedly at a networking lunch and Vivian was at hot yoga, I thought about the bracelet, about the uninvitation to Thanksgiving, about the way Vivian had looked at my collard greens like they were something shameful. Then I thought about something else, something I'd overheard last week when I came home early from the office. I'd used my key as quietly as possible because I had groceries, and I'd heard Vivian on the phone in the living room. "I know, Mom, but we have to wait. At least another year or two. Derek says once she's gone, everything transfers to him. The penthouse, the investments, everything. We just have to be patient." At the time, I told myself I must have misheard. That gone meant something else. That my daughter-in-law wasn't literally discussing waiting for me to die. But now, sitting in my bedroom while they finished my birthday dinner without me, I knew exactly what I'd heard. I opened my laptop, logged into the secure server where I kept my real financial documents. The ones nobody knew about because I'd been Martha Johnson, Derek's mom who has some investments, for so long that people forgot to ask questions. I pulled up the deed to the penthouse. Owner, Martha Rose Johnson. Purchase date, March 2019. Sole proprietor. Then I opened the trust documents, the ones my lawyer Patricia had helped me draft right after James died. Derek was listed as beneficiary, yes, but I was the sole trustee with complete discretion over disbursements. And there was a clause, one I'd insisted on including, that stated any beneficiary who attempted to hasten the trustee's death, even by discussion or planning, would be immediately and permanently removed. James had questioned that clause. "Baby," he'd said, "that's dark. Derek would never—" "Probably not," I'd agreed, but better safe than sorry. Now I opened a new document on my laptop, titled it Ledger, Johnson Family. At the top, I wrote today's date, November 8th, 2024. Underneath, I began to type, Assets, Penthouse, 2847 Live Oak Street, Unit 4801, $2.4 million, owned outright. Investment portfolio, $47.3 million, managed through various LLCs. Novalink's capital ownership stake, 60%, $180 million valuation. Rental properties, 17 units across Dallas, $8.9 million combined value. Cash reserves, $3.2 million. Liabilities. Monthly payments to Derek, listed as consulting fees, $15,000. Credit card, supplementary, Derek and Vivian authorized users. Average $8,000 per month. Loans to Derek, unpaid, $287,000. Total given to Derek since 2020, $1,547,000. I stared at the numbers. Nearly $1.6 million in 4 years. And what had I gotten in return? A $15,000 bracelet on another woman's wrist, and an uninvitation to Thanksgiving. I heard laughter from downstairs. Vivian's high-pitched giggle, Derek's rumbling chuckle. They were probably eating my peach cobbler now, the one I'd made with peaches I'd driven 40 minutes to get from the farmer's market because those were the good ones, the ones my grandmother had taught me to pick. I closed my laptop, picked up my phone, scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for. Jamal Wright, private investigator. He'd done background checks for some of my business acquisitions. Discreet, thorough, expensive. I typed out a text. Jamal, this is Martha Johnson. I need your services for a personal matter. Can you meet tomorrow morning? 9 a.m. at Ascension Coffee on McKinney. Come alone. This is confidential. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The reply came 30 seconds later. Yes, ma'am. I'll be there. I set the phone down, walked to my closet and opened the safe hidden behind my winter coats. Inside was another leather folder, this one containing the original will James and I had made together, the papers from when I'd sold my first company in 2015, and a smaller envelope I'd been afraid to open. James had given it to me the week before he died. His handwriting on the front was shaky. Martha, open if you need to remember who you are. I'd been too raw to open it when he died. Too busy grieving, then too busy trying to hold on to Derek, then too busy pretending everything was fine. Now I broke the seal. Inside was a single piece of paper. James's handwriting was stronger here. He must have written it earlier in his illness. My dearest Martha, if you're reading this, something has made you doubt yourself. Maybe our son has disappointed you. Maybe you've been giving so much you forgot how to receive. Maybe you've made yourself small to make someone else feel big. Remember, you started with nothing. You built empires. You put me through business school when I lost my job. You raised Derek alone after I died, because let's be real, baby, I'm probably gone by now. You are not anyone's charity case. You are not anyone's backup plan. You are not anyone's secret bank account. You are Martha Rose Johnson. You survived Jim Crow schools. You survived being the only black woman in rooms full of men who wanted you to fail. You survived cancer. You survived losing me. You can survive anything, including the truth about the people you love. Don't let anyone mistake your kindness for weakness. Not even our son. I love you forever, James. I read it 3 times. By the 3rd time, I wasn't crying anymore. I was thinking, calculating, planning. I folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope, placed it in the safe with the other documents, closed the door, and spun the lock. Tomorrow morning, I would meet with Jamal. I would give him a list of things to investigate, where Derek and Vivian really were on the days they said they were somewhere else, what the credit card charges really paid for, who this Amber Hayes was, the name I'd seen on a Venmo transaction last month, sent from Vivian with the note, "For your birthday, babe." But tonight, I walked back downstairs in my slippers and my Kiss the Cook apron. Derek and Vivian were curled up on the sofa watching television. My television, in my living room, in my penthouse. The peach cobbler dish was empty on the coffee table. "Martha," Vivian said without looking away from the screen, "can you take that dish to the kitchen? And we're out of the good sparkling water, the French one. Can you add it to the grocery order?" "Of course," I said. I picked up the dish, walked it to the kitchen, washed it by hand even though we had a dishwasher that cost more than some people's cars, dried it with a towel, and put it back in the cabinet. Then I walked to the bar cart in the corner, the one with the expensive bottles Derek liked to show off to his friends, even though I'd bought every single one. I poured myself 2 fingers of the Macallan 18. The bottle had cost $800. I raised the glass to the Dallas skyline visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. "Happy birthday to me," I whispered, and I smiled. Because Martha Rose Johnson might have been playing the sweet, quiet mother for the last 3 years. But Martha Rose Johnson, the woman who'd built a tech company in her garage, sold it for $180 million and turned that into a $500 million empire, was about to stop playing. They wanted to treat me like an ATM? Fine. Time to check the balance. And time to freeze the account. The coffee at Ascension was dark and bitter, exactly how I needed it. I'd been awake since 4 in the morning, unable to sleep, my mind running calculations like it used to in the early days of my business. Numbers were cleaner than emotions. Numbers didn't lie. Jamal Wright walked in at 8:55 a.m., 47 years old, former Dallas PD detective, now one of the most discreet private investigators in Texas. He was wearing a simple gray suit and carried a leather portfolio that had seen better days. He ordered a black coffee and sat down across from me in the corner booth I'd chosen deliberately, away from windows, away from the morning crowd. "Mrs. Johnson," he said, extending his hand. "It's been a while." 3 years, I said, shaking it. "The acquisition of that warehouse property in Deep Ellum. You found out the owner was running an insurance fraud scheme. I remember, saved you about $2 million. He pulled out a notebook. "What can I do for you today?" I slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside were printouts of credit card statements, a list of dates and times, and 3 names written in my careful handwriting. Derek Johnson, Vivian Thompson Johnson. Amber Hayes. Jamal opened the envelope and studied the contents for a long moment. Mrs. Johnson, he said quietly, this is your son. I know who it is. Are you sure you want to know what I find? Because once you know, I'm 62 years old, Jamal. I survived Jim Crow schools, a husband who died too young, and 40 years in tech as the only black woman in every room. I can handle the truth. He nodded slowly. What exactly are you looking for? Everything, I said. Where they go when they say they're somewhere else. Who this Amber Hayes is and why my daughter-in-law is sending her money. What my son is really doing all day. And most importantly, I paused, making sure my voice stayed steady. I want to know if they're planning something. Planning for after I'm gone. Jamal's expression didn't change, but I saw his jaw tighten. Elder financial abuse. That's what I'm afraid of. How long do you need the surveillance? 2 weeks, I said. I want to know everything by Thanksgiving. That's when they're having their family dinner. The one I'm not invited to. I'll need a retainer, he said. This kind of work, 2 subjects, round the clock. I pulled out my checkbook, the one that still had my maiden name on it, the one I used for my business accounts. I wrote out a check for $50,000 and slid it across the table. Jamal looked at the check, then at me. Mrs. Johnson, do you know who I am, Jamal? My full professional background? He hesitated. I know you consult for investment firms. I know you own some rental properties. I founded Novalinks Capital, sold my first company in 2015 for $180 million. My current net worth is approximately $463 million. I watched his eyes widen. Nobody knows this. Not my son, not his wife, not her family. They think I'm just Derek's mom who has some money from her late husband. Jesus, Jamal breathed. So when I say I want to know everything, I mean everything. Bug their cars if you have to. I want timestamps, photographs, recordings. I want to know every lie they've told and every dollar they've spent. Can you do that? Yes, ma'am, he said, pocketing the check. I'll have preliminary results in 48 hours. By Friday afternoon, my phone started buzzing. First text from Vivian. The internet isn't working? I was in my office at Novalinks Capital on the 48th floor of the Renaissance Tower in a board meeting about our expansion into cryptocurrency validation. I glanced at the message and set the phone face down. Second text, 5 minutes later. Martha, the Wi-Fi is completely down. Derek has a very important Zoom call. Can you call the cable company? I picked up my phone and typed back. I'm in a meeting. The bill is on autopay. Should be fine. Maybe restart the router? What I didn't tell her, I'd canceled the premium gigabit plan that morning, downgraded us to basic internet, saved $180 a month, also made streaming, gaming, and important Zoom calls virtually impossible. Third text. This is ridiculous, and the hot water isn't working either. The hot water heater's maintenance contract had conveniently expired yesterday. I'd chosen not to renew it. Another $350 a month saved. Ms. Johnson? My CFO, Marcus Chen, was looking at me with concern. Are you all right? You're smiling. I'm fine, Marcus. Please continue with the presentation. By Saturday morning, Derek called me 14 times. I was having my hair done at my regular salon, the one I'd been going to for 20 years, where nobody asked me about my daughter-in-law or made comments about my people. I answered on the 15th call. Mom, what the hell is going on? Derek's voice was panicked. The Mercedes is gone. I came out this morning and it's just gone. Did you see anything? Should I call the police? Oh, honey, I said calmly while my stylist, Teresa, worked magic with my silver curls. I meant to tell you, the lease was under the corporate account and I'm restructuring some business expenses. The leasing company came to collect it yesterday. Didn't they leave you a notice? Silence. Then, you had my car repossessed? It wasn't your car, baby. It was a company vehicle registered to Novalinks Capital. I'm consolidating assets. Surely you understand you're in business yourself. I have meetings today. Investor meetings. How am I supposed to? Uber is wonderful, I said pleasantly. Very reliable. Or there's the DART train. Very eco-friendly. I can't show up to investor meetings in an Uber. Then maybe you should have invested in your own vehicle, I replied. I have to go, sweetheart. My stylist is waiting. I hung up. Teresa caught my eye in the mirror and grinned. Whoever he is, she said, he deserves it. My son, I said. Then he really deserves it. Monday morning, Jamal called me at 7 a.m. Mrs. Johnson, can you meet me at your office? I have the preliminary report. You're going to want to sit down for this. An hour later, he spread 47 pages of documents across my desk. Photographs, bank records, text message transcripts, GPS tracking data, and a USB drive labeled audio, November 9th to November 13th. I'm going to walk you through this chronologically, Jamal said, his voice professional, but I could hear the anger underneath. Thursday, November 9th, the day of your birthday. He pointed to a photograph. Derek and a young woman, maybe 28, blonde, beautiful in that carefully maintained Instagram way, sitting at an outdoor cafe. The timestamp said 2:35 p.m. That's Amber Hayes, Jamal said, 28 years old. Claims to be a lifestyle coach on social media. Real occupation, aspiring trophy wife. She and your son have been meeting twice a week for the past 7 months. My hand stayed steady as I picked up the photo. Meeting for what? Affair is the simple answer. He pulled up another photo. Derek's hand on Amber's thigh. Derek kissing her in a parking garage. Derek entering her apartment building. A modest complex in Uptown, the kind of place young professionals rented before they made it. But it gets worse, Jamal continued. He showed me a bank statement. This is Amber's checking account. She gave me access in exchange for, well, that doesn't matter. Look at the deposits. I scanned the columns. Regular deposits of $500 from an account labeled V.T. Johnson, Vivian. Your daughter-in-law has been paying your son's mistress, Jamal said. $500 every 2 weeks for the past 6 months. Total, $6,500. The numbers blurred for a moment. I blinked them back into focus. Why would Vivian pay her husband's mistress? That's what I wondered. He pulled out his phone and played an audio file. The quality was muffled, but clear enough. Vivian's voice. Told you, Amber, we just need to be patient. Once the old lady is gone, Derek inherits everything. The penthouse alone is worth millions. Amber's voice. But it's been 7 months. I'm not getting any younger, Viv. And Derek keeps saying soon, soon, but... Vivian. Look, she's 62. Her husband died of cancer. She's had health scares. It's not going to be that much longer. And when it happens, you get Derek, I get the settlement, and we all get what we want. The audio clicked off. I sat very still. Outside my window, Dallas spread out below me like a circuit board, all clean lines and bright lights. Inside, I felt something cold and final settle into place. There's more, Jamal said quietly. He pulled out another document. This is a consultation form from Whitfield and Associates, family law attorneys. Derek met with them on September 15th. I looked at the form. Subject: post-death estate distribution. Questions regarding trustee powers and beneficiary rights following death of settlor. He was asking, Jamal explained, how quickly he could get access to your money after you died, and whether he could challenge any restrictions in the trust. I set the paper down carefully. What did the attorney tell him? That as long as you're alive, you have complete control. But the attorney also noted, here, he pointed to a line of handwriting in the margin. Client seemed particularly interested in timeline for natural death versus accelerated scenarios. The room was very quiet. Mrs. Johnson, Jamal said, I need to ask you directly, do you feel physically safe? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Derek was weak, not violent. Vivian was calculating, not murderous. They weren't going to smother me with a pillow or poison my tea. They were just waiting, hoping, planning for my death like other people planned for Christmas. I'm safe, I said, but I want everything documented. Every meeting, every conversation, every dollar. I want a full forensic accounting of where my money has gone. I've already started. He pulled out a spreadsheet. In the past 4 years, you've given Derek approximately $1,547,000. That includes the $287,000 in loans he never repaid, the monthly consulting fees of $15,000 that he does no work for, and the supplementary credit card averaging $8,000 a month in charges. What did they spend it on? Derek, failed cryptocurrency investments, sports betting. He's down about $90,000 at offshore sites, lease payments on luxury cars, and direct cash gifts to Amber Hayes totaling $43,000. And Vivian? Clothes, jewelry, spa treatments, and maintaining a lifestyle she absolutely cannot afford. Her parents, the Thompsons, filed for bankruptcy in 2019. They're living in a rented house in University Park on money borrowed from friends. Vivian married your son thinking he was wealthy. She's maintained that illusion by spending your money. I absorbed this. The Cartier bracelet, $15,000. Purchased November 2nd. Derek used the supplementary card, gave it to Vivian on November 4th, told her he saved up for it. I laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. He saved up my money to buy his wife a present 2 days before my birthday and couldn't afford a card for me. Yes, ma'am. I stood up and walked to the window. 48 floors below, people were living their lives. Going to work, meeting friends, being honest with each other. Simple, normal, honest lives. What else do I need to know? I asked. There's one more thing. Jamal's voice was careful. The Thanksgiving dinner at the club. I pulled the reservation. Catherine Thompson made it for 12 people. The guest list includes the Thompsons, Derek and Vivian, and, he paused, Amber Hayes listed as Derek's business associate. I turned around. They invited his mistress to Thanksgiving. Yes, ma'am. And uninvited me to make room. Yes, ma'am. I walked back to my desk. Picked up the photo of Derek and Amber, the one where his hand was on her thigh and she was laughing at something he'd said. He looked happy, relaxed, the way he used to look when he was a little boy, and I'd take him for ice cream after a good report card. Jamal, I said, I want you to continue surveillance through Thanksgiving, and I want you to document that dinner. Photos, video if possible, audio definitely. I want proof that they're all there together. What are you going to do? I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I'm going to give them exactly what they've been giving me. Nothing. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in strategic withdrawal. I didn't cancel everything at once. That would have been obvious, suspicious. I did it slowly, like letting air out of a tire. The cleaning service that came twice a week. On vacation, so sorry. The grocery delivery from Whole Foods. Having it delivered to my office instead, so much more convenient. The country club membership. Well, that one made a phone call. I'm sorry, Mrs. Thompson, the club manager said to Catherine, who'd called me in a fury. But the membership is in Mrs. Johnson's name. When she asked us to restrict access to immediate family only, we had to comply. If Derek would like his own membership, the initiation fee is $50,000. Vivian's personal trainer, the one who came to the penthouse gym 3 times a week at $200 a session, canceled. The meal delivery service, canceled. The house account at Neiman Marcus? Frozen. Every day another small luxury disappeared. And every day I watched their panic grow through increasingly frantic text messages that I answered with pleasant confusion. Vivian, why was my hair appointment canceled? Me, oh honey, was that on my card? I'm reorganizing accounts, must have gotten caught in the transition. I'm sure they can reschedule. Derek, Mom, the internet is still not working properly. It keeps buffering during my calls. Me, have you tried turning the router off and on? Technology can be so frustrating. By the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I had Jamal's complete report. 217 pages. Every lie documented. Every dollar traced. Every meeting photographed. And I had a plan. Thanksgiving morning, I woke up at 5 a.m., made myself coffee, put on a simple black dress, Donna Karan, elegant but understated, and my late husband's watch. The one he wore the day he proposed to me, back when we had nothing but dreams and determination. At 9 a.m., I called Derek. Happy Thanksgiving, baby, I said when he answered, his voice groggy. Mom, it's 9 in the morning. I know, I wanted to catch you before your big day. I've been thinking about what Vivian said about the community dinner at the church. And you know what? She was right. I should spend the day with my community. Silence. Then, oh, well, good. That's good. But before I go, I continued, I was hoping we could have a quick family meeting. Just the 3 of us. There are some papers I need you both to sign. Estate planning things. My lawyer says it's important to have everything in order at my age. I could practically hear him salivate. Estate planning? Just some updates to the trust. Nothing major. Can you both come by at 10? I'll have coffee ready. We'll be there, he said quickly. At 9:55 a.m., the elevator opened. Derek and Vivian stepped out, both dressed casually, him in jeans and a polo, her in yoga pants and a cashmere sweater. They looked relaxed. happy even. They thought they were about to get everything they'd been waiting for. I was sitting at the dining table. In front of me were 3 neat stacks of documents, a pot of coffee, 3 mugs. "Good morning," I said pleasantly. "Coffee?" "Sure," Derek said, sitting down. Vivian sat next to him, eyeing the documents. I poured coffee for all of us, added cream to Derek's the way he liked it, slid it across the table. "So," Derek said, "what papers do you need us to sign?" "Actually," I said, "I don't need you to sign anything. I need you to read something." I slid the first stack of papers to Derek. The title page said, "Financial Investigation Report, Derek Johnson, prepared by J. Wright, Investigations." Derek's face went pale. "What is this?" "Read it," I said calmly. He opened to the first page. I watched his eyes scan the text, watched the color drain from his face. Vivian grabbed the second stack. Her hands started shaking on page 3. "This says," Vivian's voice was barely a whisper, "this says we've been under surveillance." "For 2 weeks," I confirmed. "Every meeting, every phone call, every credit card transaction. It's all documented." Derek looked up at me, and for the first time I saw fear in his eyes. "Mom, I can explain." "Explain what?" I asked. "Explain Amber Hayes? Explain the $43,000 you've given her? Explain the consultation with the divorce attorney? Or should we start with the recording of you and Vivian discussing how much longer I'm likely to live?" Vivian stood up abruptly. "This is illegal. You can't spy on people." "I can when they're spending my money," I replied. "And when they're discussing my death like it's a business opportunity." "We never said," Derek started. I pulled out my phone and played the audio. Vivian's voice filled the room. "Once the old lady is gone, Derek inherits everything." When it finished, the silence was absolute. "I raised you," I said to Derek. My voice wasn't angry. It was tired. "After your father died when you were 8 years old, I worked 3 jobs to keep you in private school. I built a business in our garage while you slept. I paid for your college in full, $160,000, so you wouldn't have debt. I gave you every opportunity, every advantage, every dollar you ever asked for." "Mom, I'm not finished." I stood up. "Do you know what this penthouse costs? $2.4 million. I bought it in 2019, 2 years before you even met Vivian. It's in my name. Only my name." I pulled out the deed and set it in front of them. "Do you know what I'm worth? Not the comfortable widow with some investments you told Vivian about. My real net worth." I wrote a number on a piece of paper and slid it across the table. $463 million. Vivian's hands flew to her mouth. Derek just stared. $463 million, I said. "I founded Novalinks Capital. I sold my first company for $180 million in 2015. I've been quietly building an empire while you've been planning my funeral." "I never," Derek's voice cracked. "We weren't planning." "You consulted with an attorney about accessing my money after my death. You asked about accelerated scenarios. Do you know what that means, Derek? It means the lawyer noted that you seemed interested in whether I could die sooner rather than later." The room spun. Or maybe it was just me, finally saying all the things I'd been holding in. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You have 72 hours to vacate this penthouse. You'll take your personal belongings only. No furniture, no art, nothing purchased with my credit cards." "You can't kick us out," Vivian shrieked. "We have rights, "You have no rights," I said calmly. I pulled out another document. "This is the trust agreement. I am sole trustee. I have complete discretion over all distributions. And there's a clause here." I pointed to Section 7, subsection C, that states any beneficiary who attempts to hasten the trustee's death, even through discussion or planning, is immediately and permanently disinherited. Derek's face went gray. No, Mom, please. Your monthly consulting fees of $15,000? Terminated as of today. The supplementary credit card? Canceled. The loans you never paid back? $287,000 total? I'm writing them off as losses. You will never see another dollar from me unless you earn it." "Where are we supposed to go?" Vivian whispered. "I don't know," I said. "But I suggest you figure it out in the next 72 hours, because on Monday morning at 9 a.m., the locks change, and anything left inside becomes my property." Derek stood up, his chair scraping loudly. "You're really doing this? On Thanksgiving?" "You uninvited me to Thanksgiving," I reminded him. "So you could take your mistress to the country club." "Yes, I know about that too. Amber Hayes, confirmed guest. I have the reservation list." Vivian made a sound like a wounded animal. Derek's hands were shaking. "I gave you everything," I said, my voice finally breaking just a little. "Everything I had, everything I earned, everything I built. And you treated me like an ATM, like an obstacle between you and my money, like someone whose death you could plan for over brunch." "I'm sorry," Derek whispered. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." I picked up my purse. "You meant every word, every plan, every calculation. You just didn't mean for me to find out." I walked to the elevator, pressed the button. "Where are you going?" Derek asked. "To the community dinner at Henderson Avenue Church," I said. "The one for seniors that Vivian suggested. I called them yesterday. They were lovely. Said they'd love to have me." The elevator doors opened. 72 hours, I said. "After that, you're trespassers." The doors closed on their stunned faces, and for the first time in 3 years, I felt like I could breathe. 6 months later, the Dallas Business Journal broke the story on a Tuesday morning. Tech billionaire Martha Rose Johnson, the hidden giant who built an empire in silence. The article was thorough, detailed, devastating. It covered my sale of data flow systems in 2015 for $180 million, my founding of Novalinks Capital, my 60% ownership stake in a company now valued at $520 million, my 17 rental properties across Dallas, my quiet philanthropy, $12 million donated to HBC Us over the past decade, all anonymously, and buried in paragraph 12, a single line. Johnson's son, Derek Johnson, 36, was recently evicted from Johnson's $4 million penthouse following a family dispute. My phone rang 47 times that morning. I ignored all of them except one. "Martha," it was Patricia Mills, my attorney. "Have you seen—" "I've seen it," I said. I was sitting in my office, watching the sunrise paint Dallas gold. "I'm the one who gave them the story." Silence. Then, "You leaked this yourself?" "I'm tired of hiding, Pat. I'm 62 years old. I've spent the last 3 years pretending to be small so my son could feel big. I'm done." "The board is going to want a statement," she warned. "Tell them to read the journal article. It says everything I need to say." By noon, hashtag Martha Rose Johnson was trending on Twitter. By evening, Forbes had posted an article. How Martha Rose Johnson built a $500 million empire while everyone was looking the other way. Black Twitter was celebrating. "Another hidden figure," someone tweeted. "Black women stay having to hide their light so mediocre men can shine." The comments on the Dallas Business Journal article were mixed. "Why hide this? She should be celebrated. Her son is a disgrace. Elder financial abuse is real. Wait, she owns Novalinks? I've been using their payment system for years." And then, buried in the hundreds of comments, one that made my coffee go cold. "I met Derek Johnson at a bar last week. He was bragging about his inheritance coming soon. Said his mom was old and sick. This is wild." Derek's fall was swift and public. I didn't have to do anything. The internet did it for me. Someone found his Instagram, the one where he'd posted photos of the Mercedes, the penthouse views, bottles of expensive champagne. Every post was suddenly flooded with comments. "That's your mom's car, bro. Imagine being 36 and living off your mama. Elder abuse isn't cool." He deleted his social media on day 3. But the damage was done. Someone had screenshots. They spread like wildfire. His old fraternity brothers, the ones he'd bought drinks for with my credit card, suddenly had public memory problems. "We always knew something was off," one told a blogger. "Derek talked big but never actually did anything. The investor meetings he'd claimed to have? Fabricated." The investigator called 3 of the companies Derek had name-dropped. None had ever heard of him. The real estate license he was working on? He'd failed the exam. Twice. I learned about Derek's new life through Jamal, who I'd kept on retainer. Not to spy, I'd had enough of that, but to make sure he was safe. "He's living in Oak Cliff," Jamal reported during our weekly check-in. "Small apartment, 2 roommates. Got a job at Best Buy in the home theater department." Is he? I hesitated. Is he okay? Define okay, Jamal said carefully. He's alive. He's sober. He shows up to work on time. His manager is a 22-year-old kid who has no idea Derek used to live in a penthouse. Something in my chest ached. And Vivian? Divorced him 6 weeks ago, moved back to her parents' house. She's working as a receptionist at a dental office. He paused. Mrs. Johnson, Derek's been trying to call you. I know, I said. I'd seen the calls, dozens of them. Voicemails I hadn't listened to. Text messages I'd deleted without reading. He's not asking for money, Jamal added. The messages are different, apologetic. He's in therapy. Good, I said. He should be. But that night, alone in my penthouse, my peaceful, quiet penthouse, I pulled out my phone, scrolled through the missed calls, 73 from Derek, 41 from blocked numbers that I suspected were Vivian. I opened the text messages. Derek, December 3rd, 2024. Mom, please, I'm sorry I messed up. Please call me Derek. December 15th, 2024. I don't want money. I just want to talk to you. Derek, January 8th, 2025. I got a job. It's not much, but it's mine. I'm trying. Derek, February 14th, 2025. I know you won't read this, but happy Valentine's Day. Dad would be disappointed in me. I'm disappointed in me. Derek, March 22nd, 2025. My therapist says I need to take accountability without expecting forgiveness. So here it is. I was wrong. I used you. I waited for you to die. I'm sorry. You deserved better. You deserved a son who appreciated you. I set the phone down, walked to the window. Dallas sprawled below me, all bright lights and possibilities. James's voice in my memory. Baby, being angry is easy. Being fair is hard. The interview request came from Good Morning America. Ms. Johnson, the producer said on the phone, we'd love to have you on to discuss your career, your philanthropy, and, if you're comfortable, the situation with your family. I thought about it for exactly 10 seconds. Yes, I said. But I have conditions. I want to talk about elder financial abuse. I want to talk about why successful Black women hide. And I want to donate my appearance fee to organizations that help seniors protect themselves financially. The interview aired on a Wednesday morning in late May. I wore a cream suit and my grandmother's pearls, sat across from Robin Roberts, who started with the gentle questions, my career, my success, my late husband, before getting to the heart of it. Martha, Robin said, leaning forward, you hid your success for years. Why? I took a breath. Because when I was visible, I was called aggressive. When I negotiated, I was difficult. When I succeeded, people assumed I'd gotten lucky or slept my way up, so I became invisible. I let white men take credit for my ideas. I worked from the shadows, and I got richer for it. But that invisibility cost you something personal. It cost me my son, I said simply. I made myself small to make him feel big. I gave him everything without making him earn anything. And by doing that, I taught him that he deserved wealth without work, that I existed to fund his lifestyle. He's been publicly criticized, Robin noted carefully. Some people say you've been too harsh. Some people, I replied, have never had their own child discuss their death like it's a business opportunity. I let that sit for a moment. Elder financial abuse happens in families every day. Sons and daughters who see their parents as ATMs, who wait for inheritance like vultures. I was lucky. I had the resources to protect myself. Most seniors don't. The clip went viral within hours. I taught him he deserved wealth without work, became a meme. Elder financial abuse happens in families every day, was quoted by politicians, by advocacy groups, by other families going through the same thing. My office was flooded with letters. Dear Ms. Johnson, my daughter stole $40,000 from me before I caught her. Your story gave me courage to press charges. Dear Ms. Johnson, I'm 68, and I've been supporting my 45-year-old son for 20 years. After hearing you, I finally said no. Dear Ms. Johnson, I'm a 19-year-old Black girl studying computer science. You showed me I don't have to hide to succeed. That last one made me cry. I started a foundation, the James and Martha Johnson Fund for Financial Literacy and Elder Protection, seeded it with $50 million, created programs to teach seniors how to protect their assets, how to recognize financial abuse, how to set boundaries with adult children. The board meetings for Novalink's capital changed too. I stopped sending junior executives in my place. I showed up in person, sat at the head of the table, and made decisions without apologizing for them. "Martha," Robert Sullivan said after one particularly contentious meeting where I'd shut down a risky acquisition, "you're different lately." "I stopped pretending to be less than I am," I replied. "You should try it." He actually laughed. My personal life shifted too. I'd been so busy being a mother, a widow, a quiet benefactor, that I'd forgotten to be Martha. Just Martha. I started dating. Nothing serious. Dinner with a distinguished professor from SMU, coffee with a surgeon I'd met at a charity gala, men my own age who'd built their own careers and didn't need me to fund their lifestyles. I redecorated the penthouse. The African art that Amber Hayes had wanted to throw away? I hung it prominently in the living room, added pieces from local black artists, commissioned a portrait of James that now hung over the fireplace. I hosted gatherings. Other successful black women, CEOs, entrepreneurs, doctors, lawyers. We'd drink wine and tell truths about the spaces we navigated, the microaggressions we endured, the success we'd earned. For the first time in 3 years, I felt like myself. But in quiet moments, I thought about Derek, about the little boy who used to curl up in my lap and ask me to read him stories, about the teenager who'd been so proud when I started my business, about the young man who'd cried at his father's funeral and told me, "You're the strongest person I know, Mom." What had happened to that boy? Or had I imagined him? Had I created a fantasy of who my son was, ignoring the reality of who he was becoming? Patricia Mills had an opinion. "Martha," she said over lunch at our favorite spot, "you can't save people from themselves. Derek needed to fall. He needed to hit bottom. Maybe now he can climb back up." "And if he can't?" I asked. "Then that's his choice, not your failure." 1 year later, I was hosting Thanksgiving. Not a sad, lonely dinner for one. A real Thanksgiving. Patricia and her husband. Jamal and his wife. 3 young executives from Novalinks. My pastor from the church I'd started attending. My hairstylist Teresa and her girlfriend. 16 people total. My dining table was full of food, laughter, and life. I'd been cooking for 2 days. Turkey with my grandmother's sage dressing, macaroni and cheese from scratch, collard greens, candied yams, peach cobbler, cornbread, food made with love for people who appreciated it. At 4:30, the doorbell rang. Everyone was already here. I wasn't expecting anyone else. I walked to the door and checked the security monitor. Derek stood in the hallway. No car keys in his hand. He'd clearly taken the bus. He was wearing khakis and a button-down shirt, both neat but clearly not expensive. In his hands were grocery store flowers, a modest bouquet, maybe $15. My first instinct was to leave him there, to let him stand in that hallway and feel what it was like to be uninvited, unwelcome. But I thought of James, of the letter he'd left me. "Don't let anyone mistake your kindness for weakness, not even our son. Kindness wasn't weakness, but it also wasn't enabling." I opened the door. "Derek," I said. "Mom," his eyes were wet. "I know I wasn't invited. I'm not asking to stay. I just wanted to give you these and tell you I'm thankful. Thankful you cut me off. Thankful you forced me to grow up. Thankful you loved me enough to let me fail." He held out the flowers. I took them. "Why are you really here, Derek?" "Because it's Thanksgiving," he said. "And because I wanted you to know I'm different now. I'm working 2 jobs, Best Buy during the day, bartending at night. I have 3 roommates. I paid off my first credit card last month. It took me 6 months to pay off $3,200, but I did it, with my own money." "That's good," I said. "I'm in therapy twice a week. I'm learning about boundaries and entitlement and how I used you." He swallowed hard. "And I'm learning that I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm trying to become the man Dad would have wanted me to be." Behind me, I could hear my guests laughing at something Patricia had said. I could smell the turkey, the cornbread, the life I'd built. "Derek," I said, "I need to ask you something, and I need the truth. Anything. Did you ever love me, or did you just love what I could give you?" His face crumpled. "I loved you, Mom. I still love you. I I let that love become about taking instead of giving. I let Vivian convince me that we deserved your money. I let Amber convince me that I was special. I let myself believe that you owed me something just for existing." He wiped his eyes. "But you didn't owe me anything. And I'm so sorry I made you feel like you did." I studied him. Really studied him. He'd lost weight. His eyes had shadows under them. His hands, holding those cheap flowers, were rougher than they used to be. Working hands. "You can come in," I said finally. "But there are rules." "Okay. You sit wherever there's room. I'm not making anyone move for you. You help serve food. You help clean up after. You don't leave until every dish is washed. And if I ever find out you've asked anyone here for money, you're gone forever. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." I stepped aside. Let him in. The room went quiet when they saw him. Everyone knew who Derek was. Everyone had read the articles, heard the story. "Everyone," I said. "This is my son, Derek. He's joining us for dinner. Derek, make yourself useful. The table needs water glasses." Derek didn't argue, didn't complain. He found the glasses and filled them one by one, serving my guests with quiet efficiency. I watched him listen when one of the young executives talked about her startup. Watched him nod when Jamal mentioned the importance of accountability. Watched him help Teresa's girlfriend reach the serving spoon for the mac and cheese. During dinner, Patricia's husband asked him directly, "Derek, what do you do?" The old Derek would have lied, would have inflated his importance, created a story. This Derek said simply, "I work in retail and I bartend. I'm saving up to take some business courses at community college. Real ones this time, that I'll actually finish." "That's honest work," Patricia's husband said. "It's the first honest work I've ever done," Derek replied. After dinner, after the guests had left, Derek stood at my kitchen sink washing dishes. I dried them and put them away. We worked in silence for a while. "Mom," he finally said, "can I ask you something?" "Yes?" "Why did you let me in today?" I set down the dish towel. "Because being angry at you was eating me alive. Because you're my son, and I still love you, even though you hurt me. And because James wrote me a letter before he died, and it reminded me that love isn't just about giving, it's also about teaching. I failed to teach you when you were younger. I'm giving you a chance to learn now." "I don't expect things to go back to how they were," he said quietly. "They won't," I confirmed. "They can't. You broke my trust. You planned for my death. You stole from me while pretending to love me." "I know. But," I continued, "you're trying, really trying. And that matters." He scrubbed a dish, his shoulders shaking slightly. "I'm so ashamed, Mom. Every day I wake up and remember what I said, what I did, and I'm just ashamed." "Good," I said. "Shame means you understand what you did wrong. Now you have to do something with that shame. Turn it into something better." We finished the dishes in silence. As he was leaving, I stopped him at the door. "Derek," I said, "I want you to come to dinner next month. Here, first Sunday, 6 p.m. I'll cook." "Really?" "Really. But you take the bus. You don't ask for money. You don't ask for anything except food and conversation. Can you do that?" "Yes, ma'am." "And Derek, I'm proud of you." His voice broke. "For what?" "For trying. Keep trying." 5 years later, I celebrated my 67th birthday at the construction site of the Martha Rose Johnson Center for Financial Literacy. The building would open next spring, a full-service center offering free financial counseling, legal aid for elder abuse victims, and training programs for seniors learning to protect their assets. The local news was there. The mayor, several city council members, and standing at the back, quiet and unassuming, was Derek. He was 41 now, managed a small tech startup, not mine. He'd insisted on keeping that separate. Made $78,000 a year, had a modest apartment in East Dallas that he paid for himself, was dating a school teacher who had no idea who I was when they met. We had dinner once a month, sometimes twice. He'd never asked me for money, not once in 5 years. Slowly, so slowly it was almost imperceptible, we'd rebuilt something. Not the old relationship, that was gone forever, but something new, something honest. That evening I stood in my penthouse, the same penthouse, though I'd considered selling it 100 times, and looked at the Dallas skyline. On my desk was the ledger, the real one, the leather notebook James had given me. The last entry dated today. Balance sheet, November 8th, 2030. Assets, net worth, $620 million, up from $463 million in 2024. Foundation endowment, $85 million. Relationships rebuilt. 1. Derek. Relationships lost. Several but necessary. Peace of mind. Priceless liabilities. None. Status balanced. I closed the ledger, set it on the shelf next to James's photo. Baby, I said to him, we did it. It took 5 years, but we did it. My phone buzzed, a text from Derek. Happy birthday, Mom. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to. Love you. I typed back. Love you too, baby. See you Sunday for dinner. The city lights glittered below. Somewhere out there, other families were struggling with the same things we had. Adult children who took instead of gave. Parents who enabled instead of empowered. Love that got confused with obligation. I'd learned that at 62, you could start over. That wealth meant nothing if you were poor in peace. That the greatest victory wasn't revenge or vindication. It was the quiet afternoon when your son came to dinner, and you both knew, without saying it, that you'd found your way back to each other. Not all the way back. Maybe never all the way back. But back enough. I made myself a cup of tea, sat in James's old chair, put my feet up, and for the first time in years, maybe decades, I felt complete. The ledger was balanced, the account was closed, and Martha Rose Johnson could finally rest. Thank you for staying with Martha's story from beginning to end. Elder financial abuse is real, and it's devastating. According to the National Council on Aging, seniors lose approximately $28.3 billion annually to financial exploitation, most often by their own family members. If you're experiencing financial abuse, please reach out to National Elder Fraud Hotline, 1-833-FRAUD-11 National Adult Protective Services, www.napsa-now.org. And if you're a parent struggling with adult children who see you as a bank account, you're not alone. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty, it's love. Martha's story is fiction, but the lesson is real. You can't build a person by giving them everything. You build them by teaching them to build themselves. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. And please, if this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Stay strong. Stay safe. And remember, your worth isn't determined by what you can give others. Your worth is inherent. Much love, the storyteller.